October 4th, 1978. A young mother is killed and left in a ditch just outside of Rock Rapids, Iowa. No one knows her name. A daughter is left alone to search for her mother for almost 30 years. Then she is given a facial reconstruction photo. It's a morbid way to meet your biological mother. Wilma June Nissen finally had her name, and Krissi found her mother. But who killed her? Could there still be any DNA evidence? Could there still be any witnesses? Authorities exhumed the remains, but no conclusive evidence was found. After 47 years, the family is still searching for answers. Who killed Wilma June Nissen? This case is brought to you by... Behind every true crime story is a shattered life. I have raised awareness for over 300 cases and have worked directly with the family members on many of them. This book highlights 40 case files. Some of them are famous, many of them are obscure. There's missing persons cases, unsolved homicides, serial killers, and more. Check out Shattered today to learn more.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Chasing Justice. I am your host, Synova Cantrell. I have one of my favorite true crime victims advocates, Cricket Andrews, on the line with me. Hi Cricket, how are you?
Hi everybody.
I also have the lovely Krissi with us. Now, Krissi is the daughter of the woman we're going to be speaking of today. So thank you for signing on with us. Thank you for being here. Krissi, you and I have talked before,
Yes.
back before I took a break from true crime and studied some other things and come back. And I've been trying to cycle back to some of these other cases to try to see if there's any updates or anything like that. And there's not a whole lot to talk about since I talked to you the first time, which is heartbreaking. So I thought, well, we need to make another video and we need to push it out to a bigger, wider audience and see if we can make a difference. So thank you for signing on. For those of you, thank you for everyone that signed on. There's so many. I love it when the comments start coming in before we even sign on. So thank you so much for that. Make sure and like and share this. Krissi is still trying to get this story out of her mother, and I believe she went missing. She was found in 1978. So we are pushing 47 years. In October will be 47 years, I think. If I have to do some quick math, something like that.
47 or 46 or 47.
Yeah, getting close. So over 4 decades, pushing close to 5 decades, and so we need this story told because. Quickly, people are dying off, and the witnesses that were that may have been available at the time are no longer with us, but this is one story that a lot of times we talk about stories where the police have kind of mishandled things. This is not one of those stories. So you're going to hear of a police department that has really gone over and above and done everything that they can to help. And so it's a pleasure to speak on cases like that. But just jumping right in, we're talking about Wilma June Nissen, I believe, or Nissen's how you say her name. Nissen, okay. She was born on October 19th, 1954, so that would have made her about the age of 23. Unfortunately, she was killed and left beside the road. Her body would not be found until October of 1978, and it was just outside of Rock Rapids, Illinois, or I'm sorry, Rock Rapids, Iowa. Her body was found in October of 1978, but she would not be identified for almost 3 decades. I believe it was close to 27 years when she would be identified. Now, in the meantime, we have Miss Krissi here, who was adopted and had, a normal childhood, who was raised by loving adoptive parents. But she always had that desire to find out who her biological mother was and get to know her. And for almost 3 decades, Krissi searched for her mother mother. And in a devastating turn of events, the way she was introduced to her mother was through a facial recognition photo. Someone well-meaning came and brought her this photo and said, "Hey, we think we found your mother." And so this is a devastating way to meet your mother. And this is unfortunately she had to have to suffer through that. And then also we have continued on for decades since then without any answers. And so, Krissi, I appreciate you coming on, and we want to discuss this with you and get your insights. We want to, like I said before when we did our interview before, Wilma June Nissen is a name that's put on a case file. And if you look at my computer, I have hundreds of case files with names and dates and information. And I always work really hard at keeping them human beings. They're not case files. They're not numbers. I know she was a Jane Doe for 27 years almost, or 28, somewhere close to that. But she was a human being with a very tragic story. And so not only did you have to suffer through the pain of meeting your mother in this morbid, horrible way, but the more you learned about your mother, the worse it became. And so I want to talk about her childhood, and I want you to, Cricket's going to jump in and talk with us as well, because Cricket has some insight into some of what your mother may have gone through. Cricket is a survivor herself. Cricket is a survivor of our corrupt and just devastating DFS system. She was abused in the DFS system. She was manipulated. She was used. She was mistreated in about every way imaginable in the DFS system. And so she's going to be talking to us tonight about some of those problems and giving some insights into that. But let's start out by telling the people who your mom is and what you have found out about her childhood. Who is Wilma Nissen? Is it Nissen or Nissen?
Honestly, I was one when she was murdered. So
you're not
it could go either way. I think it's Nissen.
Nobody has really stated for sure then. So Nissen, I think, so if I mispronounce it, we'll say sorry to Miss Wilma's angel. Well, sorry, I'm sure she won't mind. So tell us what you found out about your mother's childhood when you started digging. First of all, how did you find out? From what I understand, your adoptive parents were actually her adoptive parents at a certain time. Was that how it worked?
My adoptive parents were her final foster family. They had her for 2 years, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I was told that I was planned adoption from her, that she accidentally. I wasn't told really anything about her.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained, a little nervous.
It's okay.
But I found out about her and me. I started looking for her. I started asking her about her when I was really young. And I started actively looking for her when I was about 11. I would call names that matched in the phone book. I had a talk show looking for her. It was the 90s.
Right.
But I didn't get any real facts until they identified her.
Right. And that was 2006?
Yes.
Was that when she? Okay. And so she was a Jane Doe. For those of you just signing on, we're talking about a Jane Doe in Iowa for about 27 years, if I remember correctly. So for almost 3 decades, this poor woman had no name and nobody could identify her. But they did go ahead and they worked hard trying to figure out who she was. And of course, back then we didn't have as much technology and things that we did now, but they traced her fingerprints down to a former arrest. And they did finally find her. But then you got the worst way possible to find out who she was. Tell the people about that if you can. And if anything gets too hard for you, just let me know and we'll change the conversation, because this is traumatic, and I realize that.
It's fine. Her story needs to be out. I was going through some rough stuff of my own at the time, so the timing couldn't have been. It wasn't a good point in my life.
Right.
And a friend of mine's mom came over, and she asked me what my mom's name was. And I told her, and she starts crying, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she hands me a newspaper, and it has my mom's name, and that she's been a Jane Doe for 27 years. And it had the facial reconstruction, which I appreciate the person that did it. They didn't have much to work with, but I mean, I'd only seen a few photos of Wilma in my entire life.
Right. And so this is, I flashed over here so people can see the photos in the middle and on the left of the screen are what you got to see the first time.
Yes.
And you get to see this, for the first time. And about how old are you when this happens?
They identified her when I was 20. I just turned 28.
Okay.
So
you've been searching for a long time. You had been searching if you started at 11, you've been searching for 17 years.
Yeah.
So this was a long time coming, and the worst possible news. But on the other hand, was it a little bit of relief knowing that she didn't come looking for you because she couldn't? Did you ever have that where you was thinking, well, why doesn't she come for me? Did you ever have that?
I mean, I wondered, but my adoptive parents didn't talk about her. I found out my biological father had come to the door once, because I did meet him a couple of times, and he couldn't tell me anything about her either.
Right. It sounds like they tried their best to protect you and provide for you as best as they could.
They were very elderly.
Uh-huh.
They were 65 and 71 when I was born, so they were of a completely different generation.
Yeah. So you was raised by grandparents.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it kind of shows how much they care, though, if they were willing to adopt the child of a former foster care child. It kind of shows their heart anyways, it seems like to me.
They definitely meant well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that has to be a hard subject to broach, because every child is going to have different questions. Every child's going to have different needs and requirements. They're going to handle it different. So there's no playbook saying, hey, for one, there's no playbook to say, hey, you're adopted, and then beyond that, to see all the things that that would eventually come out about your mother, that there's really no good playbook what is they going to do? Put out a scrapbook to show you all the pain that your poor mom suffered, so I find that it's one of those things that it's devastating. So tell people what you found out about your mother's childhood, and that will give people an idea of maybe what these people were trying to protect you from.
She had a horrific childhood. Her mother left her and her younger sister, who couldn't speak, or oh God, I don't think she could speak or hear. And okay, so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. She left her and her disabled sister.
Yeah, her disabled sister.
Mm-hmm.
When they were 7 or 8, I think, maybe a little bit younger. And this has all been pieced together over the years, so the dates might not be 100% accurate.
Right.
But they were left in the care of their father, and care is not the word I would use. He was very neglectful and abusive. He would go to work. He would lock them in a closet. he lost his job. Now, this I do know is a fact, is that he did lock them in a closet. And then when he lost his job, I don't know what he was doing. If I had my guess, I would say he was probably at a bar. It just seems right because he lost his job and they all had to live in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And the disabled sister was locked in the trunk.
Mm.
And Wilma had to go scrounge for food.
So she would spend her days as a young child scrounging the trash cans and things for food, trying to find food, probably out behind all, little restaurants and stuff like that, digging through stuff that nobody should have to eat, that even the alley cats shouldn't have to eat. And she dug through that to provide food for her and her disabled sister who was in the trunk of the car.
Probably her father when he decided to show up too.
Probably. And then I remember from the last time we spoke, you said she hadn't been to school. And by the time she was 10, she hadn't been to school and she couldn't even use a fork to eat.
By the time Child Protective Services stepped in, she was 10 years old. She went to her first foster family and they are lovely people. I did get to meet them a few times. I saw some home videos. They really loved her.
Yeah.
But when she got there, she immediately called them mom and dad. She couldn't read. She'd never been to school. 10 years old, never been to school. She'd already been homeless. Couldn't read, couldn't write, did not know how to use a fork.
Mm. And we're talking 10 years old. So by 10, what are you in 4th, 5th grade by then? And she hadn't even gone to kindergarten yet. So she didn't have the basics of what most toddlers get with the, how to guide a fork to your mouth.
Yeah.
And so this is the childhood that your mother had to go through. And then we're going to be talking about how, this is the problem with the DFS system. The DFS system, you get good parents for a while, and then for some reason you get jerked out and you get put in parents that really don't want to have kids, but they have them anyways.
Yeah.
And then when you turn 18, people don't realize this. And this was something that I didn't realize until I started working with Cricket. When you turn 18, there's no transitional housing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no transitional education. There's no, of course, there's no college education. There's nothing, no life skills education, nothing. You are dumped out on the streets on your ear.
There's more now, but in the 70s, there was nothing.
Yeah, there isn't anything. And now, even now, people don't realize our homeless population, a lot of it is kids that were dumped out the DFS system. You've got addicts and you've got veterans who are becoming addicts. And so most of our homeless population are from those 3 camps. And Cricket has firsthand information on how that works because she aged out of the DFS system. And Cricket, I haven't heard much from you. Do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, actually, when I aged out, but I was not allowed to leave, I had to basically somebody came and rescued me. They were going to keep me prisoner. But I want to commend your parents for bringing you up and keeping you in that home. 80% of trafficked people come from the child care system, which I call child predator services.
Yeah,
appropriate.
Yeah, because, and I commend all good foster families, all good social workers. I'm not in any way putting them down, but it's the bad ones. The kids aren't learning skills. Your mom couldn't make it on her own.
No.
She didn't have the skills. And I was blessed enough to have somebody take me into their home for a year and teach me skills so that I could be on my own.
Well, basic skills that teenagers learn from their parents at home: how to do laundry, how to cook, how to clean, how to keep things picked up, so you don't live, in a dumpster, of a house,
Yep.
How to, just basic things, how, self-care, how to keep your hair clean, how to brush your teeth,
Yeah.
how
And
to,
it's
all these
still
basic things.
heartbreaking the way foster kids are treated today.
Absolutely.
I was in an organization to help find missing kids, and these two girls ran away together. One was a foster child. They were friends. Um, the one filled out the form so that our organization could go find her. Both the girls were found at the same time, but the foster child got away, and she still has not been found.
Mm, that's horrible.
And yeah, these kids, like, when when they're in foster care, the foster care system becomes their legal guardians.
Mhm. Right.
So if a parental intake form has to be filled out, they have to do it.
Right.
And I got some people fired, social workers, supervisors, because you can't take that 5 minutes
Right.
to fill out a form to help find this child.
Right. Right. But see, that's the thing. People don't understand that the DFS system as a whole, it has a good purpose. But it's like so many of our other systems in this country, it has gotten corrupt over time, and it's gotten all about money. And
Yes.
and
Oh, it's always been
we need
about
to
money.
we need to get back to what the kids need, and I mean, we give our prisoners better transitional services to get them back on their feet than we do our DFS system. So let's move on to the next stage in Miss Wilma's life. When she aged out of the system, she ended up on the streets like everyone else, and she ended up in the profession that is very dangerous for women. She ended up becoming a prostitute. Just as a means of survival, she had to do something. And like so many professionals in this industry, if you go back and listen, 99% of them didn't choose that life. This is what was thrown on them. Because think about it, if you don't have any skills, you don't have any education, you don't have any you don't have any social skills or anything like that, you can't even go to
And you don't have a home base.
burgers.
Right.
What'd you say?
You don't have a home base either. You don't have family to rely on. A lot of people are like, oh, well, just what about your family?
You don't have any. There isn't any. And a lot of people don't have that concept. They don't understand that concept because there's always somebody they can fall back on. But when you go and you have to fill out a form and you don't have an emergency contact, then maybe you'll understand this concept. But this is a 18-year-old girl who aged out of the system, who got thrown out on her ear like so many thousands and thousands of other girls. But she had such a rough go at it. She had no skills. So most bosses, even at burger joints, you have to have a ride to work every day. You have to have ability to be there and show up and be clean and be neat. And if you don't have those things, you can't get a job. And so the only way she could survive is this industry. And it's the most dangerous industry for a woman to be in. And so she ended up on the streets. We do know that she had you about 22, because she was about a year when they found her in 78, right?
Yes. She also had 2 kids before me.
That's what I was asking. Did you ever find them? Do you know anything about them? Or?
I was talking to a search angel. I don't know if you are familiar. And I don't know how, but they found one they can't find hide nor hair of. And I mean, if they were taken away as infants, which they were, the names are changed. Like my name was changed from what it originally was.
Right.
One of my older on Wilma's side. Brothers may have been found, but he might be dead. He might we're not sure it's him, but he may be have passed away like 2 or 3 years ago.
No. So you haven't been able to connect with them either way. So have you met your biological father?
I met him when I was 17. I saw him a few times. He passed away in 2000.
Okay.
So
He passed away before they found him then, before they found her then.
yes.
Okay. So here's where we're at now. Her body was found in 2006. It took them, her body was found in 78. She was identified in 2006. There we go. She's identified in 2006. That's when you found out who she was. What was your first steps after you found out who she was, and where she was, and all that devastating news? Did the police reach out to you, or did you reach out to them?
I reached out to them.
You reach out to them, and how was that dynamic? Were they happy to work with you? Did they you at arm's length? What'd they do?
That was the sheriff then and the lead detective on her case then were amazing. They put so much care and time and work into her case. I'm so grateful to them. They had me go take a DNA test to make sure, and I didn't know DNA test could be that quick, but yeah, it was her.
It was her.
And they shared what they could with me. They couldn't share much.
Right.
They still they still
keep some. They have to keep some to themselves.
Yes,
Now at one time there was 8 people of interest that they wanted to talk to, and I understand they kind of whittled that down, over time. And they've talked to potential serial killers in prison that were in the area. They've gone over and above. They even gave their Jane Doe a funeral.
Yeah.
They have really, took this on as if this was their family member, it seems like, and it's really refreshing because that's the way police are supposed to work. And so many cases we cover, that's not the way it is.
Oh God, yeah.
But we do know that it came down to is it still just one person that they're looking for to talk to?
They're looking for at least 2. There's 2 women.
Mm-hmm.
They were also escorts and prostitutes and dancers. They know where one of them is. Their stage names were Sugar and Peaches. They were both African American ladies in their mid to late 20s, I believe, in the late 70s.
Right.
They know where Sugar is. They know her real name.
Mm-hmm.
They have talked to her. She's failed multiple polygraph tests.
Mm-hmm.
But they just don't have
enough to go with that. Yeah, a failed polygraph test is good for investigations, but you can't take that to court, so they can't really do much with just that. Now
they need someone to come forward that has seen her with Wilma or her with her partner in crime, accomplice, friend, whatever you want to call her.
Right.
So that's Sugar. They're looking for Peaches.
So this one, the picture that I have is Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
This is the person they've talked to. They know who that is, and they're looking for Peaches. And we don't have a picture of Peaches. It's not released publicly, anyways. Okay.
I believe Peaches was from the Thunder Bay area.
Okay.
In like the Ontario Thunder Bay area, and she would go back and forth. From what I've been told, she had a history of robbing other girls, robbing clients. Just
now, that you said that they had, not that we know of, killed anybody else, but that they had drawn weapons on people before, and so we don't have any evidence that they've actually killed before or even this time, but there is evidence of potential violence in the past. Yeah. So we're trying to be circumspect here because we can't officially accuse anybody.
No.
But,
They don't even know if they don't know that they killed her, but they do believe
they know something.
that they know something.
Right. And so here's the thing. We've got Sugar that we've talked to, but we haven't talked to Peaches, right? They haven't actually found who she is. Do they even know her real name or anything?
Mm-mm.
No, that's okay. That's the way pets are.
Yeah.
Didn't Sugar take off pretty quick?
Actually, from what I understand, they both did. And I was told by the sheriff's department in Lyon County that they fled to Canada, and that there was one of them stabbed someone. I don't know how badly. I don't think, but they did stab someone, and then fled back.
Okay, so there is potential for violence there, and I contend anytime you pull a weapon on somebody, there's a potential for violence there. So we know that these two escorts were robbing other escorts and clients in that area during that time. We do know that they fled the scene almost immediately after Wilma went missing. Of course, nobody reported Wilma missing, though. So, and we don't know exactly how long she was in that ditch, do we?
They are guessing. If I remember, I have notes, but they're a mess. But they were guessing that she was in that ditch for up to 3 months. So 3 months. Right around the time I was turned 1 is about the time she went
missing. Now, have they ever released her cause of death? We do know that after they exhumed her remains and did their autopsies and things, they do know what the cause of death is, right?
They do know the cause of death. They know that it was especially brutal. Yeah. They won't release it. They won't tell anyone. I don't know. They're keeping that, hoping for.
Right. They have to keep something.
It drives me crazy, but I understand it.
Yeah, because there is so much public information available that they have to keep something quiet that they can hold back, just to verify information. So I'm going to share my screen. Are you okay with the boots and the rope picture? Okay. I always want to ask because I never know what stage.
Anything to help her case.
Right. Well, and I'm a victim's advocate, but I do some trauma coaching, and I never know what stage you're at. And then that stage can fluctuate daily depending on your emotional state. So I don't want to do anything to cause anything worse.
I wonder too, for the fact that they took off so fast. If they didn't do it, they saw it because they were scared.
Yeah, they were afraid. Okay, can you see the boots picture?
Yeah.
Okay. There's always a lag when I share my screen, so I always have to wait. This is Wilma's boots. She wore these white boots, and as you can see, there are ropes around her ankles. Now that comes into very specific. Now here's a prettier, nicer picture of the boots, easier to look at, so you guys can see that. But the reason why I wanted to show that is there is a very specific reason why we wanted to see the picture of the rope. Can you explain to people there is a potential with that rope? Can you explain to them what that is?
Okay. So, real quick, that rope was believed to have been used to drag her body into the ditch. But they kept that rope. They had the foresight to keep the rope. And so it was kept. When they exhumed her body, there was tons of water, so there was no viable DNA. But they kept the rope and they sent it to, I want to say, Switzerland, to a lab in Switzerland a few years back. And they were able to get, I believe, amplified DNA.
Right.
Off of it.
Right. for those of you that don't know what amplified DNA is, DNA is a strand, and we all know that. But to test it and get a good, viable test on it to be able to match it to something, you have to have a large amount of that. You have to have a certain amount of it, and if you don't have enough of that, you can do basically carbon copies, and you can copy the same, it's because it's just a repeating strand. So you can carbon copy and you can amplify it and copy it over and over and over and over again to get a big enough sample to test. But unfortunately, that is a newer DNA technology that even the FBI's CODIS system can't work with. Yeah. So we're still kind of behind the technology. Am I explaining that correctly? Kind of?
In 2021, yes, they didn't have the technology yet. I'm wondering if with companies, I don't know if I'm allowed to name names. I can only think of one off the top of my head, but companies that are advancing, there's crazy amounts of advancements in DNA technology over the last few years. And
well, just since the killer case, we have seen how genealogy mapping and DNA have really just blown things out of the water. You know, how massively impressive that is and how big of a transition that is. So we might be getting, if we don't have that now, we should be getting close, I would say. But have you heard anything about it?
About that?
Can they do anything with that so far? The amplified DNA?
I don't know. There's a brand new sheriff in Lyon County. He's only been there since January. And
so you're still going through that process of, you have to go through the whole process of reintroducing and going through that whole,
And I know I've pestered him enough already that he's just like, I'll get around to you. I'll circle back. I'm like,
Yeah. And it's hard because on your end, you've been fighting this case and this has been going on for 47 years.
Yeah.
And so in his case, he's like, hey, wait a minute, I've just had it for 3 months, So, but that is the reason why that rope is so important, because there was DNA. And if I heard it somewhere, did they say it was multiple sources?
Yes, like they were.
It wasn't just one person on that DNA.
There was multiple DNA, and they were able to, with the amplified DNA, they were able to rule out law enforcement that had touched it.
Right.
So they could tell, like, okay, so this is your DNA, so we take you out. You've touched it. This is your DNA, but you touched it, so we're going to take that out. And there's still multiple sources of DNA.
Yeah, so it's a good chance that it's a good clean sample. It's not contaminated, in other words.
That rope was kept in evidence. So yeah, it was thankfully it was kept.
It's a good clean sample. In other words, there's no contamination. That happens so much that things can get cross contaminated so easy, and for so many years nobody really understood anything about touch DNA and things like that. So things got contaminated so easy. So we do have a hope, and that's another reason why we wanted to make the video, even though you and I've made a video, was 2019 or 2020, something like that. We have hope. The hope is, one, we still need to find sugar. Is it sugar? Peaches we're looking for. We need sugar and peaches, I get confused. I'm sorry.
They're stage names.
Exactly. It's like, okay. But I'm one of those, I have a hard time names and faces together. So it's like, since I don't have a face for peaches, it's hard for me to remember. So, but we need peaches. We need to find her. We need her to come forward. We need somebody that knows her to come forward. We need that. We need this DNA coming in. We know somebody somewhere seen something. This wasn't done in a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody in that lifestyle, in that community, probably either witnessed or know somebody that knows, because that kind of stuff goes through that little grassroots system real quick. And there's a lot of people that know about it.
Yeah.
And so it's been 47 years. It's time to come forward and say something. And if you want to know, Cricket and my other assistant, Tammy, she couldn't come. Her husband's in the hospital having surgery, so she couldn't be here. But she researched her mom's case, and she was really looking forward to talking to you. But the three of us, we cover, cases all the time. And the audience listens, the audience participates, the audience shares. But having you on the screen, I think it was very important. I'm glad you overcome, you was nervous about being on camera. But I'm
My
glad
anxiety messes me up.
it's okay. I'm glad they could see you though, because it brings it to focus. They know why it's so important for them to share. They have seen you and your beautiful face, and they're like, okay, I'm doing this for Miss Krissi. I'm going to share this for Miss Krissi. And it just brings it a little bit stronger. And so when we ask people to share, the audience doesn't always get to see the family member that Cricket's worked with or that I've worked with. And this time they get to see you, and I think that's so important. You're going to hear a big thump because my Bichon has decided to get out of his little chair.
And I hope that Sugar and Peaches can come out because whatever the fear that kept them away is no longer there. Come back and say what you saw, what you know, what you did.
Right. It's been 47 years. It's time to come forward, even if it's a deathbed confession, we need it,
Exactly.
And you've got a daughter who has looked for her mother for almost 30 years, and then she found her in the most devastating way, and then now she's looking for answers. You've got a daughter who's been looking for over 4 decades. I contend that if you look at this and you see her beautiful hair and beautiful face, and you can say, I don't care, and you're not going to say something, you better check yourself. You better check your humanity, if you can do that, because we're looking at the child of a woman who had a life, a very difficult, hard life, who survived for years in the most devastating circumstances and was taken out in a most cruel way and left and discarded as if she wasn't human. And this is a daughter who needs to have answers. We'll never really understand why. And if they have a why, it will never be enough. But
Closure is not real.
No, there's no such thing.
You just get the answers that you want.
Exactly.
Out of the dictionary. But it still helps with the grieving process, because as humans, we have cycles that we have to cycle through to get through the grieving process and to still exist and live. And you can't cycle through the next stage if you don't have the answers to close this chapter and open the next chapter. And so that's the basics of the case. Did we miss anything, Krissi, that you wanna add?
If I can just okay, a plea to people that are watching this.
Absolutely.
If you knew Wilma in any capacity, or if you saw her at I don't care if it was at sorry, message popping. I don't care if it was at a party. I don't care if you were a client, a friend. I don't care. Contact me. And if you saw anything that, no matter how trivial or insignificant it seems, please, if you don't feel like contacting, there is a tip line, but if you don't feel comfortable contacting them, you can also contact me, and I will make sure that it gets followed up on. And I'll do it anonymously for you.
You can contact me. I know a lot of people, they're intimidated by the police and by victims' family members. If you want to contact me. I'll do it. Because we need the information, we need, and this is a daughter who needs stories. Did you see Wilma at the grocery store and and you've seen her every day at the grocery store, and she, she had a smile, or she had anything. This is a daughter who wants to know who her mother was, and who her biological mother was. Now, you do have a Facebook group. I shared that in the comment section.
Thank you.
It's called Help Solve My Biological Mother's Murder Cold Case. I would just a little advice, if I could give you a piece of advice, just to make it more searchable on Facebook. Go in there and put her name in the title somewhere. That way they can find it a little easier.
I will do that. I had a whole page, a whole Facebook page for her, and I had it for years. And I don't know how someone reported it as fraudulent, and it got deleted. Facebook didn't even give me a chance to. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
One thing that's always bothers me with kids in foster care, the amount that they keep moving them around.
Mhm.
Every time they get moved around, it's more trauma.
Mhm.
When you have a good home for the child with people who do love and care for them, who are willing to do everything they can for that child. But that's not being done, because as soon as the child gets close to the foster parents, nope, they got to move.
Mhm.
Right. Well, and I've witnessed so many times that you get a loving family and it doesn't matter. They're going to take it away.
Yep.
And that's not right. It's not fair. So, okay, well, I'm going to close this out. I apologize for my dog barking in the background, but there's no one else in the house to take care of him. Is there anything we missed, Krissi, that you want to add case file wise?
She did. Okay, so stage names. I don't know if Wilma used these as stage names, because she used them before she was, before she aged out of the system. She also went by Amy, and she went by Boots, and she did that well before she aged out. I found letters that she'd written to my adoptive parents, and she was married 3 times, so she had different last names. I don't think they probably count, but she went by Amy. She went by Boots. I think she was either 5'2" or 5'4". I don't care. And she hitchhiked a lot. So, hey, maybe you picked her up hitchhiking.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was a big thing back then.
And then I have my Reddit page for her.
Girls. It could be a hitchhiker picked her up and killed her. So we're not blaming anybody, and we ask you, if you know something, to come forward. We're not trying to blame nobody. We're just trying to find some answers. And after all these years, it's time for someone to come forward. And a lot of times people will come forward once that fear factor is over, because for the first few years, they know so-and-so did it and they're terrified of that person, so it could be something along those lines. And 47 years down the road, that person's probably gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Krissi deserves to know who her mother was.
I want to know. I want to know what happened, but I want to know about her too. So even if it has nothing to do with the case, you can message me. There's ways to message me. There's the Facebook page. There's an Instagram page for Wilma June Nissen, and there is a Reddit page. And you can private message me on any of those.
I'm yelling at my dog.
Okay, my cat just knocked over his cat box.
He won't stop barking. So,
and me even, I live with my sister now, and I've been learning more about myself that I didn't know about my childhood, because she's the oldest.
Right.
And some of those things, it's hard to grasp.
Right. It all becomes important. All of it becomes so important, and any little detail.
Yes,
is great.
It's part of our identity.
Right. And it's part of your heritage, and any little thing that you can find out, it helps you understand yourself a little bit. You might have some quirks that you're like, oh, hey, that came from mom.
I have a lot of those.
make sure, and all of you that watch this now, and those of you that are watching the replay later, make sure and check out her Facebook group. And like, if you know anything about this, send her a message through the Facebook group and give her whatever information you have. Because
Please.
she doesn't have scrapbooks of her mother's pictures and things, but you could be her virtual scrapbook, and that's what she needs. So let's all gather together every bit of information we have about Miss Wilma, and let's give it to Miss Krissi, so she has that she can put together. So, all right.
Can I butt in one more time? I found one more thing out about her fairly recently. It was before she came out to the Midwest, but she used to, when she was probably right after she aged out, so probably 18, 19, 20. She hung out down in Long Beach, it was called the Pike.
Okay.
At Long Beach, California. She hung out there a lot.
Okay. So if you're from that area and at that time frame, and you have some Wilma stories or some Boots stories,
Amy.
Make sure and I'll flash her picture again so you guys can see. Here's her beautiful picture. So if you have any information about her, we ask you to come forward. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable with law enforcement and you want to message Krissi directly through her Help Solve My Mom's Case, her group, or if you want to message us through Synova Inc. Publishing, go ahead. We will get it to Krissi. All right, we're gonna jump off. Cricket, you want to tell everybody bye?
I'm begging everybody on that's watching, share this.
Absolutely, please share.
So many people get lost.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
And Krissi, my heart goes out to you. You're a very strong woman.
Absolutely. Yep. We all care, and that's one thing that people need to understand. Strangers do care. And we here at Synova Inc. Publishing, we are very everything we do is for the victims and their families. We're not into the gory details. We're not into, all the stuff, all the facade and the entertainment aspect of things. We are here for people like you, and we will get this out to as big an audience as we can. So I'll let you have the last word and let you say bye before our end credits roll.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on. And I just have to say that people that listen to true crime, it's not a soap opera, it's someone's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
the name of the book, Shattered, behind every story is a shattered life. Yes. And that's exactly what it is. So thank you guys all for signing on. Please share this, get this out as big an audience as we can for Miss Krissi. We'll see you next Tuesday, guys.